In the quiet township of Cedar Grove, a German shepherd's unwavering vigil at a forgotten grave would uncover a secret that would shake an entire community to its core. For 14 days straight, through rain and shine, the mysterious dog refused to leave its post, leading to a discovery that would challenge everything the townspeople thought they knew about loyalty, love, and the unbreakable bonds that transcend even death itself. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The morning fog rolled thick across Cedar Grove Cemetery, casting an ethereal veil over the weathered headstones and ancient oaks that had stood guard over the departed for generations. Emily Richardson, the cemetery's newly appointed groundskeeper, pulled her maintenance cart to a stop near the eastern gate, her breath visible in the crisp autumn air. At 32, she had taken over the position just 3 months ago, following in the footsteps of her late father, who had tended these grounds for over 4 decades. The historic cemetery, dating back to the Civil War era, sprawled across 12 acres of rolling hills on the outskirts of the small New England town. Emily had grown up watching her father care for this sacred space, learning the stories behind every crumbling monument and family plot. Now, as she followed in his footsteps, she found herself drawn to the peaceful solitude that came with being the keeper of so many memories. This morning, however, something felt different. The usual calm that permeated the grounds was disturbed by an energy she couldn't quite place. As Emily began her regular rounds, checking for fallen branches and wilted flowers from yesterday's visitors, she noticed something unusual near the oldest section of the cemetery, a part rarely visited except by history enthusiasts and the occasional school tour. A large German shepherd sat motionless before a weathered grave marker, its posture alert yet somehow solemn. The dog's coat, though obviously well kept, showed signs of exposure to the elements, suggesting it had been there for some time. Emily approached cautiously, expecting the animal to flee or show signs of aggression. But it remained fixed in its position, dark eyes focused intently on the grave before it. "Have you lost someone, boy?" Emily whispered, maintaining a respectful distance from the German shepherd. The dog's ears twitched at her voice, but its gaze remained fixed on the grave. Drawing closer, Emily noticed the dog's collar, a well-worn leather band with a tarnished name tag that read Max. The grave it watched so intently was nearly obscured by decades of weathering, its inscription barely legible beneath a layer of moss and lichen. Emily had inherited more than just the groundskeeper position from her father. She possessed his deep sense of empathy for both the living and the dead. In her first months on the job, she'd encountered all manner of visitors to the cemetery, grieving widows, curious historians, even paranormal investigators seeking stories of the supernatural. But something about this dog's presence struck her as extraordinary. Using her phone, Emily documented Max's presence and posted inquiries on local community boards, hoping to locate his owner. As days passed, responses flooded in, but none led to answers. The mystery deepened when elderly visitors reported seeing the dog in the same spot during their morning walks, refusing food and water from well-meaning passers-by, moving only to patrol a precise perimeter around the grave before returning to his vigilant position. Word of the faithful dog spread through Cedar Grove like wildfire, Local news stations began featuring stories about the guardian of Grove Cemetery, drawing crowds of onlookers. Emily found herself serving as both groundskeeper and impromptu tour guide, fielding questions from curious visitors while ensuring the cemetery's sanctity remained undisturbed. Dr. Sarah Chen, a veterinarian from the local animal hospital, took a particular interest in Max's case. "In my 20 years of practice, I've seen numerous cases of animal grieving," she explained to Emily during one of her daily visits to check on Max's health. "But this level of dedication is unprecedented. He's not just mourning, he's trying to tell us something." The dog's unwavering focus on the particular grave sparked intense speculation. Amateur historians and genealogists began researching the plot's history, discovering it belonged to the Marshall family, prominent figures in Cedar Grove's past. The grave Max watched so intently belonged to Thomas Marshall, who died in 1964. But the connection between a modern-day German shepherd and a 60-year-old grave remained elusive. Emily spent her lunch break sitting near Max, reading through the cemetery's ancient record books, hoping to uncover some clue that might explain his presence. The dog's behavior showed an intelligence that went beyond mere animal instinct. He would occasionally acknowledge his presence with a gentle whine or a quick glance, but his attention never truly wavered from his self-appointed post. As the days progressed, Emily noticed subtle changes in Max's behavior. He began pawing gently at specific spots around the grave, as if trying to communicate something beyond human understanding. His actions became more urgent, more purposeful, especially during the early morning hours when the cemetery was shrouded in mist. Local police officer James Rodriguez, who had been monitoring the situation due to the increased visitor traffic, shared Emily's growing concern about Max's behavior. "Animals often sense things we can't," he remarked one morning, watching Max's increasingly focused movements. "In my years on the force, I've seen working dogs locate things that seemed impossible to find. This dog isn't just grieving, he's searching." The breakthrough came when Emily discovered a series of old photographs in the cemetery office's archives. Among them was a newspaper clipping from 1964 featuring Thomas Marshall's funeral. In the background, barely visible but unmistakable, was a German shepherd that could have been Max's twin, standing at attention beside a young soldier in uniform. Further research revealed that Thomas Marshall had been a K9 handler during World War II, working with military dogs in Europe. His son, Michael Marshall, had followed in his footsteps, becoming a K9 officer with the local police force. The dog in the photograph was their family's German shepherd Baron, who had passed away shortly after Thomas. The coincidence seemed too perfect to ignore. Max's appearance and his fixation on this particular grave suggested a connection that transcended rational explanation. Emily began to notice that Max's pawing focused on a specific area beside the headstone, always returning to the same spot with determined precision. Dr. Chen conducted regular health checks on Max, amazed by his persistence despite the physical toll of his vigil. "He's well-trained and well-cared for," she noted, "but he's acting on something deeper than training. This isn't just learned behavior, it's purpose." The local historical society became involved, intrigued by the possibility that Max's behavior might lead to a discovery about Cedar Grove's past. They brought in ground-penetrating radar equipment to survey the area around Thomas Marshall's grave. revealing something unusual buried beside the plot. As the mystery deepened, more pieces of the Marshall family history emerged. Thomas had been known for his work with military dogs, developing training techniques that were still in use today. His son Michael had expanded on his father's legacy, establishing one of the first K-9 units in the state police force. Emily spent hours in the town library, piecing together the Marshall family story. She discovered that Michael Marshall had disappeared in 1975, leaving behind a distinguished career and a reputation for being inseparable from his police dog, another German shepherd named King. The case had gone cold, becoming one of Cedar Grove's enduring mysteries. The Historical Society's preliminary findings suggested that something metallic lay buried beside Thomas Marshall's grave. The location matched exactly where Max had been pawing, raising questions that demanded answers. The dog's behavior, initially dismissed by some as mere curiosity or coincidence, now seemed increasingly significant. As Emily coordinated with local authorities to investigate further, she couldn't shake the feeling that Max was leading them towards something profound. The dog's unwavering dedication had captured the imagination of the entire community, transforming a simple story of animal behavior into something that hinted at deeper mysteries waiting to be uncovered. The cemetery's normally peaceful atmosphere now buzzed with anticipation. News crews set up temporary stations near the entrance, while researchers and historians debated theories about what Max might have discovered. Through it all, the German shepherd maintained his vigil, seemingly unaffected by the commotion his presence had created. Emily found herself at the center of a story that grew more extraordinary with each passing day. As she watched Max's determined vigilance, she understood that some mysteries in life defy explanation, guided by forces beyond human understanding. The dog's unwavering focus on this particular grave suggested a connection that bridged past and present, challenging assumptions about the limits of animal intelligence and loyalty. The stage was set for a discovery that would forever change Cedar Grove's history, all because one dog refused to abandon his post, leading humans toward a truth that had lain hidden for decades. As Emily prepared for what would come next, she realized that Max's appearance in the cemetery was no accident. It was the beginning of a revelation that would touch the lives of everyone in the community. The rising autumn sun cast long shadows across Cedar Grove Cemetery as Emily Richardson gathered with a small team of experts near Thomas Marshall's grave. The morning air was thick with anticipation as archaeologist Dr. Marcus Thompson carefully marked out a precise grid around the area where Max had been pawing. The German shepherd sat nearby, watching the proceedings with an intensity that seemed to hold decades of unspoken secrets. "We need to proceed with extreme caution," Dr. Thompson explained, his experienced hands setting up sophisticated scanning equipment. "Whatever lies beneath this soil has been untouched for years. Every layer could tell us part of the story." Local historian Margaret Wells stood beside Emily, clutching a leather-bound volume of town records, her eyes darting between the grave and Max with scholarly fascination. As the team began their careful excavation, Emily noticed Max's behavior shifting. The dog's usual stoic demeanor gave way to subtle whines and increasingly alert postures as each layer of earth was methodically removed. Officer Rodriguez maintained a protective perimeter around the site, keeping eager onlookers and press at a respectful distance, while occasionally consulting with Dr. Thompson about the legal aspects of the excavation. The first significant discovery came 3 feet down. A metallic glint caught the morning light. Dr. Thompson's careful brushing revealed the corner of what appeared to be an old military footlocker. Max's reaction was immediate and unmistakable. He moved closer to the excavation site, his tail wagging with unprecedented energy. "This is extraordinary," Margaret Wells breathed, rapidly flipping through her records. "According to these documents, no additional items were ever officially buried in this plot. Whatever this is, it's not in any cemetery records." The revelation added another layer of mystery to an already compelling situation. As the team worked to carefully unearth the footlocker, Emily found herself drawn to Max's changing behavior. The dog's previous melancholy had transformed into focused anticipation, as if he had been waiting for this precise moment. Dr. Chen, who had arrived to monitor Max's well-being, observed these changes with professional interest. "Animals possess instincts and abilities we're only beginning to understand," she remarked, watching Max intently. "Their capacity for memory and recognition extends beyond what science can currently explain. Max isn't just responding to the physical discovery, he's connecting with something deeper." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The footlocker, once fully exposed, showed signs of deliberate preservation. It had been carefully wrapped in oilcloth before burial, protecting it from decades of moisture and decay. Officer Rodriguez documented every step of the process, ensuring proper chain of custody for whatever they might find inside. "This was no casual burial," Dr. Thompson noted, examining the precision with which the locker had been placed. "Someone took great care to ensure this would be preserved for future discovery." The implications of his words hung heavy in the air. This was no accident, but a deliberately hidden piece of history. As the team prepared to open the footlocker, Emily found herself holding her breath. Max had moved even closer, his nose twitching with interest as Dr. Thompson carefully broke the aged seal. Inside, they found a collection of items that began to piece together a story that had remained untold for nearly half a century. The contents included military documents, photographs, and personal effects belonging to both Thomas Marshall and his son Michael. Among them was a journal, its pages filled with detailed accounts of their work with military and police dogs. But it was a sealed envelope addressed to the future finder that caught everyone's attention. Margaret Wells, donning cotton gloves, carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a letter dated 1975, the same year Michael Marshall had disappeared. As she began to read aloud, the gathered crowd fell silent. Even Max seemed to listen with renewed attention. The letter revealed a story of dedication, sacrifice, and a legacy that stretched across generations. Thomas Marshall had not only trained military dogs during the war, but had been part of a classified program that studied extraordinary cases of canine intelligence and loyalty. His son Michael had continued this research, documenting instances where dogs demonstrated abilities that defied conventional understanding. "What we've discovered goes beyond simple training," Michael had written. "These animals possess a depth of understanding and capability that most humans refuse to acknowledge. They can bridge time itself through bonds we barely comprehend." The letter went on to detail specific cases, including one involving his own police dog, King, who had demonstrated an uncanny ability to locate missing persons and solve complex cases. As Margaret continued reading, Emily noticed Max's reaction. To hearing King's name, his ears perked forward, and he let out a soft whine. The letter explained that Michael had discovered something during his research that he believed could revolutionize our understanding of the relationship between humans and dogs, but powerful individuals had wanted to suppress this knowledge. The footlocker contained evidence of his findings, detailed records, experimental data, and documentation of extraordinary cases where dogs had exhibited unexplainable abilities. Michael had hidden this information near his father's grave, trusting that someday the right dog would lead the right person to this discovery. I know this may seem impossible to believe, the letter continued, but if you're reading this, it means one of them has found you. These special dogs, these guardians of truth, possess abilities passed down through carefully maintained bloodlines. They are drawn to protect not just people, but knowledge itself. Dr. Chen examined the scientific documentation with growing amazement. These observations, these patterns of behavior, they align perfectly with what we've witnessed in Max. This isn't just coincidence. It's confirmation of something extraordinary. The implications of their discovery began to ripple through the gathered crowd. Officer Rodriguez connected with police headquarters, pulling up Michael Marshall's missing persons file. The details in the letter added new context to his disappearance, suggesting he had gone into hiding to protect his research and the dogs he worked with. The footlocker contained coordinates and instructions for locations where more information could be found. As the team catalogued the contents, Emily watched Max's behavior shift again. The dog seemed more relaxed now, as if a great weight had been lifted. His mission, carrying forward a legacy of extraordinary canine capability and human-animal connection, was being fulfilled. Margaret Wells began cross-referencing the discovered documents with historical records, finding connections that had been overlooked for decades. The Marshall family's work with dogs spans generations, she explained. They weren't just trainers, they were guardians of a deeper understanding of canine intelligence. The discovery sparked intense interest from various institutions and researchers, all eager to study the documented cases and continue Michael Marshall's work. But Emily, watching Max finally accept water and food from Dr. Chen, understood that the true significance went beyond scientific validation. This isn't just about proving extraordinary abilities, she reflected, sharing her thoughts with Officer Rodriguez. It's about recognizing the profound connections possible between species, connections that transcend our normal understanding of time and loyalty. As the autumn day drew to a close, the team secured the site and began making arrangements for proper preservation of the discovered materials. Max, his vigil finally complete, allowed Emily to attach a leash to his collar for the first time since his arrival. His purpose hadn't just been to guard a grave, it had been to bridge past and present, uncovering a legacy that would reshape our understanding of the extraordinary bonds between humans and their canine companions. The story of Max and the Marshall legacy would inspire a new generation of researchers and animal behaviorists, but more importantly, it would remind people of the profound mysteries that still exist in the relationship between humans and animals. In leading them to this discovery, Max had demonstrated that some bonds transcend time, guided by a loyalty and intelligence that humans were only beginning to understand. As news of the extraordinary discovery at Cedar Grove Cemetery spread, Emily Richardson found herself at the center of a growing movement that would transform not just her small town, but the entire field of human-animal relationships. The contents of Thomas Marshall's footlocker had opened doors to understanding that few had dared to imagine, and Max had become living proof of capabilities that challenged conventional science. Dr. Chen established a temporary research station in the cemetery's groundskeeper's cottage, converting the modest space into a hub of scientific investigation. Researchers from prestigious universities arrived daily, drawn by the unprecedented documentation found in the footlocker. Max, now comfortable with Emily as his primary caregiver, participated in carefully designed studies that built upon Michael Marshall's original research. "What we're observing here is revolutionary," Dr. Chen explained during one particularly breakthrough session. Max had just completed a series of tests that demonstrated an ability to locate specific historical artifacts buried throughout the cemetery, even those with no apparent scent markers. He's not just following training or instinct. He's accessing information in ways we never thought possible. The Marshall family's research revealed a hidden history of exceptional dogs throughout generations, carefully bred and trained to develop abilities that bordered on the supernatural. These weren't just working dogs. They were guardians of knowledge, carrying genetic memories that could be activated under specific circumstances. Local schools began organizing field trips to the cemetery, where Emily and Dr. Chen developed educational programs that taught children about the extraordinary potential of the human-animal bond. Max, once the mysterious cemetery sentinel, became an eager participant in these sessions, demonstrating an uncanny ability to connect with children who possessed their own unique sensitivities. One such child, 10-year-old Sophie Martinez, who had always struggled with traditional learning due to autism, formed an immediate connection with Max. During a class visit, she surprised everyone by explaining complex patterns in Max's behavior that the researchers had overlooked. "He's not just finding things," she said, her usually quiet voice filled with confidence. "He's reading the memories in the ground." Emily worked with the local historical society to establish the Marshall Center for Interspecies Understanding, housed in a renovated Victorian mansion near the cemetery. The center became a sanctuary for other dogs displaying unusual abilities, each one adding new dimensions to their understanding of canine intelligence. Officer Rodriguez, inspired by the discoveries, initiated a specialized unit within the police department dedicated to exploring and developing enhanced training methods based on the Marshall research. "We've been working with dogs for centuries," he noted, "but we've only scratched the surface of their true capabilities." The footlocker's contents revealed that Michael Marshall hadn't disappeared out of fear. He had embarked on a deliberate mission to protect and preserve a legacy of knowledge that the world wasn't yet ready to understand. His detailed journals described a network of individuals and families who had worked for generations to maintain these extraordinary bloodlines of dogs, waiting for the right moment to share their discoveries with the world. As winter approached, Max's role evolved. From mystery to mentor, other dogs brought to the center demonstrated similar abilities under his guidance, suggesting that these extraordinary capabilities could be awakened through proper interaction. Dr. Chen documented cases of dogs locating lost historical artifacts, identifying unmarked graves of historical significance, and even detecting early signs of illness in visitors to the center. Margaret Wells, working with a team of historians, began uncovering similar cases throughout history. Dogs who had demonstrated inexplicable abilities to bridge time and space, often in service of preserving important knowledge or protecting significant locations. The Marshall family's work provided the missing link that connected these scattered accounts into a coherent narrative of canine evolution and capability. The center attracted international attention, but Emily and the team maintained strict protocols about how the information was shared. They remembered Michael Marshall's warnings about those who might misuse this knowledge, focusing instead on developing programs that emphasized the ethical and compassionate development of these extraordinary abilities. Local veterinarians reported an unprecedented shift in how people in the community related to their dogs. Pet owners began sharing stories of previously unnoticed behaviors, dogs leading them to lost family heirlooms, responding to unspoken thoughts, demonstrating awareness that transcended ordinary training. The Marshall Center provided a framework for understanding these experiences, helping people develop deeper, more meaningful relationships with their canine companions. Emily discovered her own latent abilities to communicate with and understand dogs at a deeper level. Under Max's patient guidance, she learned to recognize subtle signals and patterns that had always existed but had gone unnoticed. This deepening awareness spread to other aspects of her life, enhancing her connection to the cemetery grounds and the stories they held. The center developed a groundbreaking program that paired dogs showing exceptional abilities with children with special needs. The results were remarkable. Children who had struggled to connect with the world found new ways to express themselves. Through their interactions with these extraordinary animals, Sophie Martinez became a junior trainer, her unique perspective providing valuable insights into the program's development. Dr. Chen's research began to identify specific genetic markers associated with these enhanced abilities, confirming Michael Marshall's theories about inherited memory and capability. This discovery led to the development of ethical breeding programs designed to preserve and protect these extraordinary bloodlines, while ensuring the dog's well-being remained the primary concern. The impact rippled beyond Cedar Grove. Other communities began reporting similar cases of dogs demonstrating unusual abilities, leading to the establishment of a network of research centers based on the Marshall model. Each new case added to their understanding of the profound connection between humans and dogs, suggesting that these abilities weren't anomalies, but rather untapped potential present in many canines. Emily found herself traveling to speak at conferences and universities, sharing the story of Max and the Marshall legacy. She emphasized that the most important discovery wasn't the dog's extraordinary abilities, but rather the reminder that the world still held mysteries worthy of exploration and wonder. The real breakthrough, she explained, was in learning to approach these mysteries with open minds and compassionate hearts. Max continued his work at the center well into his senior years, maintaining his dignified presence while guiding new generations of dogs and handlers. His legacy extended far beyond the mysterious vigil that had started their journey, becoming a symbol of the untapped potential that existed in the space between human understanding and animal intelligence. The Marshall Center's work challenged traditional scientific paradigms, while inspiring a new approach to research that combined rigorous methodology with openness to possibilities beyond current understanding. This blend of scientific discipline and wonder created a model for exploration that would influence fields far beyond animal behavior and human-animal relationships. As Cedar Grove transformed from a quiet historical town into a beacon of revolutionary understanding, Emily often returned to the simple grave where their journey began. The mystery of Max's vigil had evolved into something far greater, a catalyst for changing how humans understood and related to their oldest animal companions, and a reminder that the greatest discoveries often come from listening to those who communicate in ways beyond words. The story of Max and the Marshall legacy became a testament to the extraordinary possibilities that exist when humans approach the world with open hearts and minds, ready to learn from unexpected teachers and embrace mysteries that challenge our understanding of what's possible. Spring arrived in Cedar Grove with an energy of renewal and possibility. The Marshall Center for Interspecies Understanding had grown into a sprawling campus surrounding the historic cemetery, its Victorian architecture harmoniously blending with modern research facilities. 1 year after Max's extraordinary vigil, the center was preparing to host its first international symposium on enhanced canine abilities, drawing participants from around the world. Emily Richardson stood at her office window, watching as Max guided a new arrival, a Belgian Malinois named Luna, who'd been discovered keeping watch over ancient Native American burial grounds in Arizona. Like Max, Luna displayed abilities that defied conventional explanation, and her presence at the center had generated excitement among the research team. Dr. Chen's latest findings had revealed patterns in canine DNA that suggested these extraordinary abilities weren't random mutations, but rather carefully preserved genetic traits dating back thousands of years. "We're not discovering something new," she explained during a morning briefing. "We're remembering something ancient, a connection between humans and dogs that was once common knowledge but became lost to time." The symposium preparations took an unexpected turn when Sophie Martinez, now 11 and an integral part of the center's youth program, made a remarkable observation. While working with Luna, she noticed the dog displaying patterns similar to Max's behavior just before the footlocker discovery. "She's trying to tell us something," Sophie insisted, her quiet voice carrying the weight of certainty that had become her trademark. Following Sophie's insight, the research team began mapping Luna's movements throughout the center's grounds. Using advanced tracking technology developed specifically for studying these exceptional dogs, they noticed she repeatedly drew attention to specific locations, creating a pattern that, when mapped, aligned perfectly with historical ley lines documented in Native American records. Officer Rodriguez, who had expanded his specialized K-9 unit into a full-fledged department, brought in ground-penetrating radar equipment. The scans revealed a network of previously undiscovered archaeological sites extending far beyond the cemetery's boundaries. Luna's behavior had led them to what appeared to be one of the largest preserved Native American cultural complexes in the region. The discovery sparked collaboration between the Marshall Center and indigenous cultural preservation groups. Elder Joseph Running Bear, a respected tribal historian, arrived to work with the team. His traditional knowledge, combined with the center's research, began unveiling a historical narrative that connected ancient human-animal relationships with the abilities they were observing in dogs like Max and Luna. Our ancestors understood these connections, Elder Running Bear explained during a session with the research team. They knew that dogs were not just companions, but bridges between worlds, physical and spiritual, past and present. What you're rediscovering through science, they preserved through stories and careful breeding of special guardian dogs. This convergence of scientific research and traditional knowledge opened new avenues of understanding. Dr. Chen's team identified specific DNA markers that corresponded with locations and times mentioned in tribal histories, suggesting that certain dogs had been deliberately bred to maintain connections with specific sites and knowledge across generations. The Marshall Center expanded its programs to include cultural preservation initiatives, working with indigenous communities to document and protect traditional knowledge about human-animal relationships. This collaboration led to the discovery of similar patterns worldwide, places where dogs had maintained ancient connections through behavior that modern science was only beginning to understand. Emily found herself increasingly drawn to the philosophical implications of their discoveries. Working with anthropologists and cultural historians, she began documenting cases where dogs had influenced human history in profound but previously unrecognized ways. The evidence suggested that dogs had been silent guardians of human knowledge and cultural heritage for millennia, their roles extending far beyond mere companionship. The center's work with children continued to yield remarkable results. Sophie's natural ability to understand and interpret canine behavior inspired a new research direction focused on individuals with unique neurological profiles. They discovered that many children on the autism spectrum possessed an innate ability to communicate with these extraordinary dogs, suggesting new possibilities for understanding both human and canine consciousness. Max, now a seasoned mentor to other dogs displaying enhanced abilities, worked closely with Luna to uncover more archaeological sites. Their combined efforts led to the discovery of ancient artifacts that reshaped historians' understanding of early human-animal relationships. Each finding reinforced the Marshall family's original theories about the deep connection between humans and dogs. The center's success attracted attention from unexpected quarters. Technology companies began exploring ways to adapt their findings for developing more intuitive artificial intelligence systems. Environmental scientists sought their expertise in using enhanced canine abilities to detect ecological changes and protect endangered species. The implications of their discoveries extended far beyond their original scope. Local schools incorporated the center's research into their curriculum, creating programs that taught children about the importance of preserving both natural and cultural heritage. Students learned about the extraordinary capabilities of dogs like Max and Luna, while developing a deeper appreciation for the interconnectedness of all living beings. Dr. Chen's research team made a breakthrough in understanding how these exceptional dogs processed information. Advanced neuroimaging revealed that their brains processed temporal and spatial data differently from ordinary dogs, allowing them to access what appeared to be genetic memories stored in their DNA. This discovery supported Michael Marshall's original theories about inherited knowledge and capability. The center established a global network of researchers and practitioners working with similarly gifted dogs. Reports began coming in from around the world, Dogs leading archaeologists to unknown historical sites, assisting in cultural preservation efforts, and demonstrating abilities that bridge the gap between scientific understanding and traditional knowledge. Emily worked with Margaret Wells to create comprehensive documentation of their findings, ensuring that this rediscovered knowledge would be preserved for future generations. They established protocols for identifying and working with dogs showing enhanced abilities, emphasizing ethical guidelines that protected both the animals and the cultural heritage they helped preserve. The impact on Cedar Grove continued to grow. The once quiet town became a center for cultural and scientific innovation, attracting researchers, spiritual leaders, and seekers of knowledge from around the world. The cemetery where Max had kept his vigil transformed into a living laboratory where science and tradition merged to create new understanding. Sophie's work with the dogs led to the development of innovative therapeutic programs. Children and adults with various challenges found new ways to connect and communicate through interactions with these extraordinary animals. The center's approach to therapy emphasized the two-way nature of healing, recognizing that both humans and dogs benefited from these deep connections. As the symposium date approached, Emily reflected on the journey that had begun with one dog's mysterious vigil. What had started as a local curiosity had evolved into a movement that was changing how humans understood their relationship with dogs and their connection to the past. The Marshall family's legacy had grown beyond their wildest dreams, touching lives and reshaping understanding in ways that continued to unfold. Elder Running Bear's words resonated through the center's work. These dogs are not just revealing our past. They're showing us a way forward. They remind us that the boundaries between species, between past and present, are not as fixed as we once believed. In remembering these ancient connections, we're learning new ways to face the challenges of our time. The first day of the International Symposium on Enhanced Canine Abilities dawned with an atmosphere of anticipation at the Marshall Center. The morning sky painted Cedar Grove in hues of pink and gold as participants from 6 continents gathered in the center's newly constructed conference facility. Emily Richardson stood at the podium, Max and Luna sitting attentively at her sides, facing an audience that represented the convergence of multiple disciplines: scientists, historians, indigenous knowledge keepers, and spiritual leaders. A year ago, we thought we were uncovering a local mystery, Emily began, her voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who had witnessed the extraordinary become possible. What we've discovered instead is an ancient truth about the connection between species that challenges everything we thought we knew about consciousness, memory, and the preservation of knowledge. The symposium's first presentation came from a team of geneticists who had been studying the DNA patterns identified in dogs showing enhanced abilities. Their research had revealed something remarkable: specific genetic markers that appeared to function like organic time capsules, preserving information across generations in ways that defied conventional understanding of genetic inheritance. Dr. Chen presented their latest findings, which showed how these special dogs possessed neural networks that processed information differently from ordinary canines. We've discovered that these dogs don't just detect physical traces or scents, she explained, showing complex brain imaging scans. They appear to be accessing layers of information encoded in the environment itself, information that most humans, and indeed most animals, have lost the ability to perceive. The morning sessions were interrupted by an unexpected demonstration of these abilities. During a break, Luna suddenly became alert, focusing intently on a visiting professor from Oxford University. The professor, Dr. James Harrison, had been skeptical of the center's claims. Luna's behavior prompted an immediate investigation, leading to the discovery that the professor was in the early stages of a serious illness, one that conventional medical tests had missed. This real-time demonstration of the dog's capabilities shifted the symposium's focus from theoretical discussion to practical application. Medical researchers in attendance began formulating plans for studies investigating how these dogs' abilities could revolutionize early disease detection and prevention. Sophie Martinez, now regarded as a young pioneer in the field of enhanced canine communication, led an afternoon session that captured the audience's imagination. Working with a group of children from the center's special needs program, she demonstrated how individuals with different neurological profiles could tap into similar perceptive abilities that the dogs possessed. "They're not just sensing things," Sophie explained, her former shyness replaced by passionate certainty. "They're reading the memories in places and people. It's like every moment leaves a trace, and these dogs, and some of us, can see those traces." Her simple yet profound explanation resonated with both scientists and traditional knowledge keepers in the audience. Elder Running Bear followed Sophie's presentation with a session that connected these discoveries to ancient indigenous understanding. He shared previously guarded traditional knowledge about how certain dogs were considered sacred messengers, capable of bridging the physical and spiritual worlds. The parallels between these ancient teachings and the center's scientific findings were striking. The symposium's second day brought breakthrough discussions about practical applications of their research. Law enforcement representatives shared cases where dogs with enhanced abilities had helped solve cold cases by leading investigators to crucial evidence that had eluded detection for decades. Environmental scientists presented studies showing how these dogs could detect subtle ecological changes, potentially revolutionizing conservation efforts. A powerful moment came when a team of archaeologists from Egypt shared their experience working with a descendant of ancient temple dogs. The dog had led them to previously undiscovered chambers in the Valley of the Kings, containing preserved scrolls that offered new insights into ancient Egyptian civilization. This discovery supported the center's theory about certain bloodlines of dogs maintaining connections to specific historical sites and knowledge. The center's work with children continued to yield remarkable results. During a special evening session, participants witnessed extraordinary demonstrations of communication between children and dogs. Young people who had struggled to connect with the world in traditional ways showed natural abilities to understand and interpret the dog's perceptions. Dr. Chen's team unveiled new technology designed to help visualize what these special dogs were perceiving. Using advanced sensors and neural mapping, they created representations of the information layers the dogs were accessing. The resulting images showed patterns that aligned perfectly with known historical events and geological formations, providing scientific validation for abilities that had once seemed mystical. As the symposium progressed, Emily noticed a subtle shift in the scientific community's approach to their work. The initial skepticism had given way to a sense of wonder and possibility. Researchers who had arrived seeking to debunk extraordinary claims found themselves instead expanding their understanding of what was possible. Officer Rodriguez presented the results of his specialized canine unit's work, showing how traditional police dog training could be enhanced by incorporating the center's findings. His team had solved several cold cases by allowing dogs with enhanced abilities to guide their investigations, leading to breakthroughs in cases that had stumped conventional methods. The symposium's impact extended beyond its formal sessions. During breaks and evening gatherings, participants shared stories of similar phenomena from their own cultures and experiences. A pattern emerged. Throughout history and across cultures, there had been accounts of dogs serving as guardians of knowledge and bridges between worlds. Max and Luna's ongoing work with archaeological sites provided a practical framework for understanding these abilities. The dogs had developed a system of indicating different types of historical significance through specific behaviors, allowing researchers to prioritize and classify sites before excavation began. This approach revolutionized archaeological methodology, making it more efficient and less invasive. The center's therapeutic programs garnered particular attention. Healthcare professionals were amazed by cases where children with severe autism or trauma had made breakthrough connections through interactions with these extraordinary dogs. The dogs seemed to provide a bridge not just to the past, but to different ways of experiencing and understanding the present. Sophie's work with younger children led to the development of new educational approaches. Schools began incorporating time for children to develop their natural abilities to perceive and process information in non-traditional ways. The results showed improvements not just in emotional well-being, but in academic performance as well. As the symposium drew to a close, Emily found herself reflecting on the journey that had begun with Max's vigil at a single grave. What had started as a local mystery had evolved into a global movement, challenging conventional understanding of consciousness, communication, and the connections between species. The final day brought the announcement of new initiatives. Research centers would be established on every continent, following the Marshall Center's model of combining scientific research with traditional knowledge and practical application. A global network would allow for the sharing of discoveries and the coordination of efforts to protect and develop these extraordinary canine abilities. Emily's closing remarks emphasized the broader implications of their work. "We're not just studying dogs with unusual abilities," she explained. "We're rediscovering ways of knowing and understanding that humans have forgotten. These dogs are teaching us to see the world as it truly is, a place where consciousness, memory, and connection transcend the boundaries we've created between species, between past and present, between the physical and the spiritual." The symposium concluded with a ceremony that brought together scientific achievement and spiritual significance. As participants gathered in the cemetery where their journey had begun, Max and Luna led a procession to Thomas Marshall's grave. The moment symbolized the bridge between past and present, between different ways of knowing and understanding that their work represented. In the months following the symposium, the Marshall Center's influence began to manifest in unexpected ways across the globe. What had started with a dog's vigil at a cemetery in Cedar Grove had sparked a revolution in understanding that touched fields far beyond animal behavior and historical preservation. Emily Richardson found herself at the helm of a movement that was reshaping humanity's relationship with the natural world. A breakthrough came when a young girl in rural India, inspired by news of the center's work, noticed her family's street dog exhibiting similar behaviors to Max. The dog, a nondescript brown mutt named Raja, had been leading villagers to ancient wells during a severe drought. Dr. Chen immediately traveled to investigate, discovering that Raja possessed the same genetic markers found in Max and Luna. This discovery challenged their assumptions about these abilities being limited to carefully bred bloodlines. It suggested that these extraordinary capabilities might be more widespread than initially thought, lying dormant in dogs around the world, waiting for the right circumstances to emerge. The center established a global citizen science project, creating an app that allowed people to document and report cases of unusual canine behavior. Within weeks, patterns began emerging. Dogs across continents demonstrating unprecedented abilities to locate lost children, predict natural disasters, and identify historical sites. Sophie Martinez, working with a team of young researchers, developed a revolutionary protocol for identifying and awakening these latent abilities in ordinary dogs. Her method combined traditional training techniques with the enhanced awareness she had discovered through her work with Max. "Every dog has the potential," she explained during a virtual workshop attended by thousands. "They're just waiting for us to remember how to listen." The medical community's interest in these dogs' abilities led to groundbreaking developments in disease prevention. A program in Norway successfully trained dogs with enhanced abilities to detect early signs of dementia, allowing for intervention years before conventional symptoms appeared. Similar programs emerged for cancer detection, mental health monitoring, and environmental toxin identification. Emily's work with indigenous communities expanded, revealing ancient practices of human-animal cooperation that had been lost to history. In Australia, Aboriginal elders shared stories of dreaming dogs who could navigate through both physical and spiritual landscapes. These accounts aligned perfectly with the center's scientific findings about how enhanced dogs processed information. The center's research into genetic memory yielded unexpected insights into human potential as well. Dr. Chen's team discovered that humans, particularly children, could be trained to access similar layers of environmental information that the dogs perceived. This finding led to the development of new educational approaches that emphasized intuitive learning and environmental awareness. Officer Rodriguez's specialized K9 unit became a model for law enforcement agencies worldwide. Their success in solving cold cases and preventing crimes led to a fundamental shift in how police departments approached investigation. The dog's abilities to detect emotional residue at crime scenes provided new avenues for understanding human behavior and preventing violence. The archaeological community embraced the center's methods after a series of remarkable discoveries. In Peru, a dog with enhanced abilities led researchers to a previously unknown Incan temple complex. The site contained artifacts that revolutionized historians' understanding of pre-Columbian civilization. Similar discoveries followed on every continent, each one adding to humanity's knowledge of its past. Environmental scientists found unprecedented success using enhanced dogs in conservation efforts. The dogs could detect subtle changes in ecosystems long before they became visible to human observers or mechanical sensors. This early warning system allowed for proactive environmental protection, preventing ecological disasters before they developed. The center's therapeutic programs evolved into a new field of medicine that combined traditional healing with insights gained from the dog's abilities. Patients with conditions ranging from PTSD to chronic pain found relief through interactions. With these extraordinary animals, the dogs seemed to help people access their own healing abilities, leading to recoveries that defied medical explanation. Technology companies partnered with the center to develop new interfaces based on the ways enhanced dogs processed information. These innovations led to more intuitive computer systems, improved artificial intelligence, and new methods of data storage that mimicked the dog's ability to access genetic memory. Max and Luna's work with children continued to yield remarkable results. Schools that adopted the center's programs reported improved student engagement, reduced behavioral problems, and enhanced creativity. The dog's presence seemed to create an environment where different types of intelligence could flourish. The center's research into consciousness expanded into new territories. Working with physicists and neuroscientists, they began to understand how the dogs accessed what appeared to be a field of information that existed independently of physical matter. This discovery supported ancient spiritual teachings about the interconnectedness of all things. Emily found herself increasingly focused on the philosophical implications of their work. The dogs weren't just demonstrating extraordinary abilities. They were teaching humanity about its own forgotten potential. Each discovery pointed to ways of knowing and understanding that had been lost in humanity's rush toward technological progress. The center's influence spread to unexpected areas. Urban planners began consulting with their researchers to design cities that better supported the natural abilities of both humans and animals. Business leaders sought insights into more intuitive and sustainable ways of operating. Artists found inspiration in the dog's ability to perceive layers of reality beyond ordinary human awareness. A significant breakthrough came when the center collaborated with climate scientists to understand how enhanced dogs perceived environmental changes. The dogs could detect subtle shifts in temperature, air quality, and ecological balance long before they registered on scientific instruments. This ability provided crucial early warnings about environmental threats. Sophie's work with young people expanded into a global youth movement focused on developing human potential through connection with animals. Children and teenagers who had struggled in traditional educational settings found their calling as interspecies communicators, helping to bridge the gap between human and animal consciousness. The center's research into genetic memory led to new understanding of how information could be passed between generations. This knowledge had implications for everything from education to healing generational trauma. The dogs were showing humanity how to access and use this inherited wisdom. As the center's work gained recognition, Emily noticed a subtle but significant shift in human consciousness. People began approaching the natural world with greater awareness and respect. The dogs had become teachers, showing humanity how to reconnect with abilities and awareness that had been lost through generations of increasing separation from nature. The impact on Cedar Grove continued to grow. The small town became a model for human-animal cooperation, with enhanced dogs integrated into every aspect of community life. Crime rates dropped, community health improved, and a new sense of purpose united the townspeople in supporting the center's mission. Dr. Chen's latest research suggested that the dog's abilities were just the beginning. Evidence indicated that other species might possess similar capabilities, waiting to be recognized and understood. The center began expanding its focus to include studies of cats, horses, and even wild animals, showing signs of enhanced awareness. As Emily prepared for another global conference, she reflected on how far they had come from the day she first saw Max keeping vigil at Thomas Marshall's grave. What had seemed impossible then had become a new reality, opening doors to understanding that continued to expand humanity's perception of what was possible. The Marshall Center had become more than a research facility. It was a beacon of hope, showing how the connection between species could lead to solutions for humanity's greatest challenges. Through the extraordinary abilities of dogs like Max and Luna, people were remembering their own capacity for deeper understanding and connection with the natural world. Winter returned to Cedar Grove, bringing with it the second anniversary of Max's fateful vigil. The Marshall Center had transformed the landscape both physically and spiritually, its campus now stretching across what had once been abandoned farmland surrounding the cemetery. The original Victorian mansion served as a museum, chronicling the extraordinary journey that had begun with one dog's unwavering dedication. A new wave of discoveries emerged when a team of researchers, led by Dr. Chen, identified what they called resonance points, locations where enhanced dogs showed particularly strong responses to historical or environmental information. These points, scattered across the globe, seemed to form a network of natural information hubs that the dogs could access and interpret. Sophie Martinez, now 13, made headlines when she developed a revolutionary method of working with children who displayed abilities similar to the enhanced dogs. Her program, called Natural Resonance, helped young people tap into their innate capacity to perceive environmental and historical information. The results challenged conventional understanding of human perception and learning. The breakthrough came during a session with twins from Brazil who had been brought to the center after displaying unusual abilities to locate lost objects and sense impending natural events. Working with Max and Luna, Sophie helped the children develop a systematic way of accessing and interpreting the information fields that the dogs perceived. "It's like tuning a radio," Sophie explained to a captivated audience of educators and researchers. "The information is always there. We just need to learn how to tune in to the right frequency. The dogs haven't developed new abilities. They've maintained what most species have forgotten." Her insights led to the development of new educational methods that would revolutionize how children learned about their world. The center's work with indigenous communities yielded unprecedented discoveries about ancient methods of environmental stewardship. Elder Running Bear collaborated with environmental scientists to document traditional practices that aligned perfectly with the enhanced dog's abilities to detect ecological changes. This synthesis of ancient wisdom and modern science provided new approaches to environmental protection and restoration. Emily's role evolved as she found herself increasingly drawn to understanding the broader implications of their discoveries. Working with philosophers and spiritual leaders from various traditions, she began documenting patterns that suggested these enhanced abilities were part of a larger evolutionary process, one that pointed toward new possibilities for consciousness and communication between species. The medical applications of their research expanded in unexpected directions. A breakthrough came when a group of physicians noticed that patients who spent time with enhanced dogs showed accelerated healing rates and improved mental health outcomes. Dr. Chen's team discovered that the dogs were somehow facilitating access to the body's natural healing mechanisms, leading to the development of new therapeutic approaches. Officer Rodriguez's specialized unit achieved international recognition when they solved a decades-old mystery involving missing artifacts from ancient sacred sites. The enhanced dogs led investigators to a network of underground chambers containing thousands of stolen cultural treasures. More significantly, they demonstrated an ability to distinguish between objects of genuine historical significance and replicas, revolutionizing archaeological authentication processes. The center's influence reached into unexpected areas of society. Urban planners began incorporating resonance zones into city designs, spaces where the natural information fields that the dogs accessed remained undisturbed. These areas became havens of psychological and physical well-being, demonstrating the practical applications of the center's research in improving quality of life. A major breakthrough occurred when the center's research team identified specific environmental conditions that seemed to activate latent abilities in ordinary dogs. This discovery led to the development of awakening protocols that could help dogs tap into their inherited capabilities. The implications were enormous, suggesting that these extraordinary abilities were not limited to specific bloodlines, but were part of the broader canine heritage. Max and Luna's work with archaeological sites continued to yield remarkable results. Their ability to detect and interpret historical information led to discoveries that rewrote history books. More importantly, their work demonstrated how much of humanity's past remained accessible through these natural information fields, waiting to be rediscovered and understood. The center's research into consciousness expanded into new territories. When they began working with quantum physicists to understand the mechanism behind the dog's abilities, the resulting theories suggested that consciousness itself might be a field phenomenon, with individual minds acting as receivers rather than generators of awareness. This understanding had profound implications for human potential and development. Sophie's work with young people expanded to include international programs that taught children how to develop their natural sensing abilities. Schools that adopted her methods reported unprecedented improvements in student engagement and achievement. More significantly, they noticed that children who developed these abilities showed increased empathy and environmental awareness. The center's influence on environmental protection grew as enhanced dogs demonstrated an ability to detect and respond to subtle ecological changes. Their work with climate scientists led to the development of early warning systems for environmental threats, allowing for proactive responses to potential disasters. This capability proved crucial in preventing several environmental catastrophes before they could develop. Emily's collaboration with indigenous communities deepened as more traditional knowledge keepers came forward to share their understanding of human-animal communication. These partnerships revealed ancient practices that aligned perfectly with the center's scientific discoveries, suggesting that humanity had once possessed a much deeper understanding of these natural abilities. The impact on Cedar Grove continued to evolve as the town became a model for human-animal cooperation and environmental awareness. Crime rates remained at historic lows, community health metrics showed remarkable improvements, and the town's educational system became a blueprint for integrating natural awareness into traditional learning. Dr. Chen's latest research suggested possibilities that stretched the boundaries of conventional science. Working with Max and Luna, her team identified patterns suggesting that the dogs were accessing what appeared to be future probability fields, information about potential events that hadn't yet occurred. This discovery opened new avenues for understanding time, consciousness, and causality. The Marshall Center's work began influencing global policy as governments recognized the practical applications of their discoveries. Environmental protection, cultural preservation, and public health initiatives incorporated insights gained from working with enhanced dogs. The center's approach to integrating scientific research with traditional knowledge became a model for addressing complex global challenges. As winter deepened in Cedar Grove, Emily found herself returning often to Thomas Marshall's grave, where Max had first demonstrated the extraordinary possibilities that lay dormant in the relationship between humans and dogs. The simple headstone had become a symbol of humanity's potential to rediscover its connection to the natural world and access deeper layers of understanding about life itself. The story of Max's vigil continued to inspire new generations of researchers, educators, and dreamers who recognized that the boundaries between species, between past and present, between science and spirit, were more permeable than humanity had imagined. In opening these doors of perception, the enhanced dogs had shown humanity a path toward healing its relationship with the natural world and accessing its own forgotten potential. Spring arrived in Cedar Grove with an unprecedented discovery that would once again transform understanding of the bond between humans and animals. A team of young researchers working under Sophie Martinez's guidance identified what they called memory clusters, specific locations where enhanced dogs exhibited particularly strong responses to historical information. These clusters, they discovered, corresponded with moments of significant emotional or historical importance. The breakthrough came during a routine training session, when Luna suddenly displayed intense interest in an unmarked section of the cemetery grounds. Initial investigation revealed no obvious historical significance, but deeper analysis using the center's advanced sensing equipment detected unusual energy patterns beneath the soil. What they uncovered would reshape their understanding of how emotions and experiences could be preserved in physical space. Dr. Chen's team, working with quantum physicists, discovered that these memory clusters contained measurable changes in the quantum field, as if powerful emotions or experiences had left permanent imprints in the fabric of reality itself. The enhanced dogs weren't just detecting physical traces, they were reading these quantum signatures, accessing information stored at the subatomic level. Emily found herself leading an unprecedented collaboration between scientists, indigenous knowledge keepers, and spiritual leaders from various traditions. Each group brought unique insights into understanding these memory clusters. Traditional teachings about sacred spaces and places of power aligned perfectly with the scientific data, suggesting ancient cultures had long understood what modern science was just beginning to measure. The implications for historical research were staggering. Enhanced dogs began leading archaeologists to sites of significant emotional or spiritual importance, revealing previously unknown aspects of human history. At one location, they uncovered evidence of an ancient peace treaty between warring tribes, a moment of such profound reconciliation that its emotional resonance had remained detectable centuries later. Sophie's work with children took on new dimensions as young people demonstrated an ability to perceive these memory clusters, though less precisely than the enhanced dogs. Her program expanded to include training in what she called emotional archaeology, teaching children to read and interpret the emotional histories preserved in physical spaces. The medical community's interest intensified when researchers noticed that certain memory clusters had therapeutic effects on visitors. People spending time in these locations reported experiences of emotional healing and psychological insight. Dr. Chen's team discovered that these areas exhibited unique quantum signatures that somehow facilitated access to deeper levels of consciousness. Officer Rodriguez's specialized unit made headlines when they used these insights to solve a series of cold cases. Enhanced dogs led investigators to locations where powerful emotions had left quantum traces, providing new evidence in cases that had stumped conventional investigation methods. More importantly, their work suggested new approaches to understanding and preventing criminal behavior. The center's environmental research revealed that natural ecosystems created their own memory clusters, preserving information about environmental changes and species interactions. This discovery led to new approaches in conservation, allowing scientists to better understand and protect complex ecological relationships. Max and Luna's work took on new significance as they demonstrated an ability to not only detect these memory clusters, but to somehow facilitate human access to the information they contained. During carefully controlled experiments, people working with the dogs reported experiencing vivid impressions of historical events and emotions preserved in these quantum signatures. The impact on Cedar Grove continued to evolve as the town became a living laboratory for understanding these phenomena. Local schools incorporated emotional history into their curriculum, teaching students to recognize and learn from the emotional legacies preserved in their environment. The result was a community with an unprecedented level of historical awareness and emotional intelligence. Emily's collaboration with indigenous communities deepened as more traditional knowledge keepers came forward to share their understanding of how emotions and experiences could be preserved in physical space. These partnerships revealed ancient practices for working with these energies, suggesting humanity had once possessed a sophisticated understanding of these natural phenomena. The center's research into consciousness expanded in unexpected directions when they discovered that memory clusters could be intentionally created through focused emotional or spiritual practices. This finding led to experiments in what they called conscious imprinting, deliberately preserving important memories and insights for future generations. Sophie's International Youth Program developed methods for teaching young people to work with these energy patterns. Students learned to recognize and interpret emotional information preserved in their environment, developing new forms of historical understanding and environmental awareness. The program became a model for educational reform worldwide. Dr. Chen's latest research suggested that memory clusters might play a role in evolutionary development, preserving and transmitting important survival information across generations. This discovery opened new avenues for understanding how species adapt and evolve, suggesting that emotional and experiential information could be passed down through more than just genetic channels. The Marshall Center's influence continued to grow as their discoveries provided new approaches to addressing global challenges. Their understanding of how emotions and experiences could be preserved in physical space led to innovative methods for environmental protection, conflict resolution, and cultural preservation. As spring deepened in Cedar Grove, Emily found herself increasingly focused on the future implications of their work. The ability to detect and interpret these emotional traces in the environment suggested new possibilities for human development and consciousness. Each discovery pointed toward a deeper understanding of how consciousness, emotion, and physical reality interacted. Max and Luna's legacy extended far beyond their initial role in uncovering these phenomena. They had become teachers, showing humanity how to access and interpret layers of information that had always existed but had been forgotten or ignored. Their work suggested new possibilities for communication and understanding between all living beings. The story of the cemetery dog who had led humanity to these discoveries continued to inspire new generations of researchers and dreamers. What had begun as a mysterious vigil had evolved into a revolution in understanding how emotions, experiences, and consciousness itself could be preserved and transmitted across time and space. Emily's vision for the future focused on developing these insights in ways that could benefit all of humanity. The ability to access and learn from preserved emotional experiences offered new approaches to healing historical trauma, preventing conflict, and building more harmonious relationships between people and their environment. The implications of their discoveries continued to unfold in unexpected ways. The understanding that powerful emotions and experiences left measurable traces in physical reality challenged conventional views of history, consciousness, and human potential. Each new discovery pointed toward a future where the boundaries between past and present, between different species, and between consciousness and physical reality were more permeable than anyone had imagined. Summer blossomed in Cedar Grove, with an extraordinary revelation that would elevate the Marshall Center's work to unprecedented heights. During a routine training session with new enhanced dogs, Max and Luna simultaneously exhibited behavior that Dr. Chen's team had never witnessed before. The two dogs, working in perfect synchronization, began mapping out complex patterns across the cemetery grounds that, when plotted, formed intricate geometric designs visible only from above. This discovery sparked a new phase of research focusing on what the team termed collective consciousness networks, patterns of information sharing between enhanced dogs that transcended ordinary communication. The implications were staggering. These animals weren't just accessing stored information individually, they were participating in a vast network of shared awareness that spanned both space and time. Sophie Martinez, working with a group of gifted children, made a breakthrough in understanding these patterns. The young researchers discovered that the geometric designs mapped by the dogs corresponded to ancient sacred symbols found in cultures worldwide. More remarkably, when people walked these patterns while in meditation, they reported experiencing profound insights and memories that seemed to originate from different historical periods. The center developed what they called consciousness walking, a practice that combined the dog's guidance with human intention to access these information networks. Participants reported experiences that ranged from vivid historical insights to profound personal revelations. The practice began attracting people from around the world, each seeking to tap into this extraordinary source of wisdom and understanding. Dr. Chen's research team identified specific brainwave patterns that emerged when humans and dogs engaged in these consciousness walks together. These patterns suggested that both species were accessing a field of information that existed independently of individual consciousness, a kind of universal database of experience and knowledge that had been accumulating throughout history. The impact on traditional scientific understanding was profound. Physicists working with the center discovered that these geometric patterns corresponded to fundamental structures in quantum fields, suggesting that consciousness itself might be geometrically organized at its most basic level. This finding offered new approaches to understanding how information could be stored and transmitted across time and space. Emily's work with indigenous communities revealed that many traditional practices had incorporated similar geometric patterns. In their sacred ceremonies, Elder Running Bear shared ancient teachings about how certain shapes and movements could facilitate access to what his people called the wisdom of all beings. These traditional insights provided crucial context for understanding the dog's behavior. The medical implications of these discoveries led to revolutionary new therapeutic approaches. Patients walking these geometric patterns under the guidance of enhanced dogs showed remarkable improvements in conditions ranging from PTSD to chronic pain. The practice seemed to facilitate access to deep healing resources within the body and psyche. Officer Rodriguez's specialized unit began incorporating these insights into their investigative work. They discovered that crime scenes often contained geometric patterns of emotional energy that enhanced dogs could detect and map. This information provided new approaches to understanding criminal behavior and preventing future crimes. The center's environmental research revealed that natural ecosystems created their own geometric patterns of information storage and transmission. This discovery led to new understanding of how species communicated and coordinated their behavior. Across large distances and time spans, the implications for conservation and environmental protection were enormous. Sophie's work with young people expanded to include teaching them how to recognize and work with these geometric patterns in nature. Students learn to identify and interpret these designs in everything from plant growth patterns to animal migration routes. This awareness led to a deeper understanding of how all living things participated in vast networks of shared information and experience. The impact on Cedar Grove continued to evolve as the town became a living laboratory for understanding these phenomena. Public spaces were redesigned to incorporate these geometric patterns, creating areas where people could more easily access states of enhanced awareness and connection. The result was a community that demonstrated unprecedented levels of cooperation and creativity. Dr. Chen's latest research suggested that these geometric patterns might play a crucial role in evolution itself, providing channels through which species could share important survival information across generations. This discovery opened new possibilities for understanding how consciousness influenced physical development and adaptation. The Marshall Center's influence spread as other communities began incorporating these insights into their urban planning and educational systems. Schools designed outdoor spaces based on these geometric principles, creating environments that naturally enhanced learning and creativity. The results showed improved academic performance and reduced behavioral problems among students. Max and Luna's work took on new dimensions as they began training younger dogs to recognize and work with these geometric patterns. Their ability to pass on this knowledge suggested that these capabilities could be taught rather than just inherited, opening new possibilities for expanding the network of enhanced dogs worldwide. Emily's vision for the future focused on developing these insights in ways that could address global challenges. The understanding that consciousness operated through geometric patterns offered new approaches to everything from conflict resolution to environmental protection. Each discovery pointed toward a future where humans could more consciously participate in the natural information networks that connected all living things. The center's research into consciousness expanded to include studies of how geometric patterns influenced group dynamics and collective decision-making. They discovered that when people gathered in these patterns, they naturally achieved higher levels of cooperation and creative problem-solving. This finding led to new approaches in organizational development and community building. Sophie's International Youth Program developed methods for teaching young people to work with these patterns. In daily life, students learned to recognize geometric designs in nature and incorporate them into their creative and problem-solving processes. The program became a model for integrating natural awareness into education worldwide. The implications of their discoveries continued to unfold in unexpected ways. The understanding that consciousness operated through geometric patterns challenged conventional views of reality and human potential. Each new discovery pointed toward a future where humanity could more consciously participate in the vast networks of information and experience that connected all living things. As summer reached its peak in Cedar Grove, Emily reflected on how far they had come from Max's initial vigil at Thomas Marshall's grave. What had begun as a mystery had evolved into a revolution in understanding how consciousness itself operated in the physical world. The enhanced dogs had led humanity to rediscover ancient wisdom about the geometric nature of reality and the interconnectedness of all life. The story of Max's vigil continued to inspire new generations of researchers and dreamers who recognized that the boundaries between species, between past and present, between individual and collective consciousness, were more permeable than humanity had imagined. In mapping these geometric patterns of awareness, the enhanced dogs had shown humanity new ways to access the wisdom and experience preserved in the very fabric of reality itself. Autumn painted Cedar Grove in brilliant hues of gold and crimson, as the Marshall Center prepared for its most ambitious project yet. 3 years after Max's fateful vigil, Dr. Chen's team made a discovery that would fundamentally transform understanding of consciousness and reality itself. Working with quantum physicists, they identified what they called harmonic resonance points, locations where the geometric patterns mapped by enhanced dogs intersected with natural energy fields in ways that seemed to amplify consciousness itself. The breakthrough came during a unique collaboration between Sophie Martinez's youth program and a group of meditation masters from various spiritual traditions. While walking the geometric patterns with enhanced dogs, participants began experiencing what they described as collective consciousness expansion, moments where individual awareness seemed to merge with a vast field of shared experience and knowledge. Emily found herself coordinating an unprecedented gathering of scientists, spiritual teachers, and indigenous wisdom keepers at the center. The convergence of these different approaches to understanding reality led to new insights about how consciousness could be amplified and directed through specific geometric arrangements and intentional practices. Traditional teachings about sacred geometry found new validation in scientific measurements of quantum field effects. The medical implications of these discoveries revolutionized therapeutic approaches. Patients participating in harmonic healing sessions, carefully designed experiences combining enhanced dogs, geometric patterns, and specific frequencies of sound, showed remarkable recoveries from conditions that had resisted conventional treatment. The practice seemed to activate natural healing abilities that had previously lain dormant. Dr. Chen's research team identified specific brainwave patterns that emerged during these sessions, suggesting that human consciousness could be intentionally tuned to access different layers of information and healing potential. The enhanced dogs appeared to act as natural facilitators of this process, helping people maintain these beneficial states of awareness. The impact on environmental research was equally profound. The center's work revealed that natural ecosystems operated through similar principles of harmonic resonance, with species coordinating their behavior through subtle energy fields that could be detected and mapped by enhanced dogs. This understanding led to new approaches in conservation and environmental restoration. Sophie's work with young people expanded to include teaching them how to recognize and work with these harmonic resonance points in nature. Students learned to identify locations where natural energy fields created opportunities for enhanced learning and creativity. The results transformed educational approaches worldwide as schools began incorporating these insights into their design and curriculum. Officer Rodriguez's specialized unit discovered that criminal behavior created discordant patterns in these natural harmony fields. Enhanced dogs could detect these disruptions, leading to new approaches in crime prevention that focused on maintaining beneficial energy patterns in communities. The results showed unprecedented success in reducing crime rates and promoting social harmony. The center's research into consciousness expanded to include studies of how these harmonic resonance points influence collective behavior and decision-making. They discovered that when communities gathered in these locations, following patterns indicated by enhanced dogs, they naturally achieved higher states of cooperation and creative problem-solving. Max and Luna's legacy grew as they trained younger dogs to work with these harmonic fields. Their ability to pass on this knowledge suggested that these capabilities were part of a natural evolutionary process that could be accelerated through conscious participation. Each new generation of enhanced dogs showed greater facility in detecting and working with these energy patterns. Emily's collaboration with indigenous communities deepened as more traditional knowledge keepers came forward to share their understanding of working with natural energy fields. These partnerships revealed ancient practices for maintaining harmony between human communities and the natural world, offering crucial insights for addressing modern environmental challenges. The impact on Cedar Grove continued to evolve as the town integrated these discoveries into every aspect of community life. Public spaces were designed to enhance natural harmony fields, schools incorporated consciousness expansion practices into their curriculum, and local government decisions were made in locations identified as optimal for collective wisdom. Dr. Chen's latest research suggested that these harmonic resonance points played a crucial role in evolution itself, providing channels through which species could access and incorporate new information needed for adaptation. This discovery opened new possibilities for understanding how consciousness influenced physical development and environmental change. The Marshall Center's influence spread as other communities began incorporating these insights into their planning and development. Cities redesigned public spaces based on harmonic principles, creating environments that naturally enhanced human potential and environmental health. The results showed improved quality of life metrics across all measures. Sophie's International Youth Program developed methods for teaching young people to recognize and work with these harmonic fields in daily life. Students learned to identify optimal locations for different activities and to maintain states of enhanced awareness that facilitated learning and creativity. The program became a model for educational innovation worldwide. The implications of their discoveries continued to unfold in unexpected ways. The understanding that consciousness operated through harmonic resonance challenged conventional views of reality and human potential. Each new discovery pointed toward a future where humanity could more consciously participate in the natural harmony that connected all living things. As autumn deepened in Cedar Grove, Emily reflected on the journey that had begun with one dog's mysterious vigil. What had started as a local curiosity had evolved into a revolution in understanding how consciousness itself operated in the physical world. The enhanced dogs had led humanity to rediscover ancient wisdom about the harmonic nature of reality and the interconnectedness of all life. The story of Max's vigil continued to inspire new generations of researchers and dreamers who recognized that the boundaries between individual and collective consciousness, between past and present, between different species and realms of experience, were more permeable than humanity had imagined. In revealing these harmonic patterns of awareness, the enhanced dogs had shown humanity new ways to access and participate in the fundamental harmony of existence itself. The center's work suggested possibilities that stretched far beyond their original mission of understanding enhanced canine abilities. Each discovery pointed toward a future where humanity could consciously participate in the natural processes of evolution and healing that operated through these harmonic fields. The enhanced dogs had become teachers, showing people how to access and work with these fundamental patterns of reality. As the leaves turned and fell in Cedar Grove Cemetery, Emily often returned to Thomas Marshall's grave, where Max had first demonstrated the extraordinary possibilities that lay dormant in the relationship between humans and dogs. The simple headstone had become a symbol of humanity's potential to rediscover its connection to the natural harmony of existence and access deeper layers of understanding about life itself. Winter returned to Cedar Grove, bringing with it the 4th anniversary of Max's vigil and a profound sense of completion to the extraordinary journey that had transformed a small-town cemetery into a global center for consciousness evolution. The Marshall Center's final breakthrough came not as a scientific discovery, but as a natural culmination of all they had learned about the interconnected nature of consciousness, time, and reality itself. On a crisp December morning, Max and Luna led Emily, Sophie, and Dr. Chen to a previously unexplored section of the cemetery grounds. There, in perfect synchronization, The two dogs began moving in intricate patterns that created what the team would later call a consciousness vortex, a focal point where all their previous discoveries about geometric patterns, harmonic resonance, and collective awareness seemed to converge. The experience that followed transcended ordinary understanding. As the small group stood within the pattern created by the dogs, they found themselves accessing not just stored memories or emotional imprints, but what appeared to be a living library of universal consciousness. The dogs had led them to discover a natural phenomenon that allowed direct access to what indigenous traditions had long called the wisdom of all beings. Dr. Chen's instruments recorded unprecedented readings during the event. The quantum field measurements suggested they had encountered a natural phenomenon where multiple layers of reality intersected, creating a window into deeper dimensions of existence. The enhanced dogs, it seemed, had always known about these intersections and had been gradually preparing humanity to understand and access them. Sophie's young researchers made perhaps the most significant observation. The consciousness vortex wasn't created by the dogs. It had always existed naturally. The enhanced dogs had simply helped humans recognize and access what had been there all along. This understanding revolutionized their perspective on consciousness itself, suggesting that awareness was not generated by brains, but was a fundamental property of reality that living beings could learn to access more fully. The impact on scientific understanding was profound. Physicists working with the center discovered that these consciousness vortexes corresponded to natural organizing principles in the universe, suggesting that awareness itself might be the fundamental force behind physical reality. The enhanced dogs hadn't just led humanity to new discoveries, they had helped reveal the conscious nature of existence itself. Emily's work with indigenous communities found powerful validation as traditional knowledge keepers confirmed that their ancestors had known about these natural consciousness portals. Ancient practices for accessing universal wisdom aligned perfectly with what the dogs had revealed, suggesting that humanity was remembering rather than discovering these profound truths. The medical implications were revolutionary. People who spent time in these consciousness vortexes, guided by enhanced dogs, reported experiences of spontaneous healing and transformation. The practice seemed to facilitate direct access to the organizing principles of life itself, allowing natural healing and evolution to occur more efficiently. The center's environmental research revealed that these consciousness vortexes played crucial roles in maintaining planetary health. Enhanced dogs could detect and map these points globally, leading to new understanding of how Earth's living systems coordinated and maintained themselves through networks of conscious interaction. Sophie's work with young people evolved into teaching them how to recognize and work with these natural consciousness portals. Students learned to access states of awareness that transcended ordinary perception, developing abilities that previous generations would have considered supernatural. The results transformed education into a process of awakening natural human potential. The impact on Cedar Grove crystallized as the town became a model for conscious community development. The presence of enhanced dogs and access to consciousness vortexes catalyzed unprecedented levels of cooperation, creativity, and harmony among residents. The community demonstrated what was possible when humans lived in conscious alignment with natural organizing principles. Dr. Chen's final research papers suggested that humanity was participating in an evolutionary leap in consciousness, facilitated by the enhanced dog's ability to help people access these natural awareness amplifiers. The dogs hadn't just solved a mystery, they had helped initiate a transformation in human consciousness itself. The Marshall Center's influence reached global proportions as communities worldwide began incorporating these understandings into their development. Cities were redesigned around natural consciousness vortexes. Education systems evolved to nurture expanded awareness, and human society began shifting toward more harmonious ways of living. Max and Luna's legacy transcended their role as pioneer, enhanced dogs. They had become symbols of the extraordinary potential that existed in the partnership between species. Their work suggested that consciousness itself evolved through cooperation between different forms of life, each contributing unique perspectives and abilities to the whole. As winter deepened, Emily realized that their journey had come full circle. What had begun with a dog's vigil at a grave had led to humanity's awakening to its place in a conscious universe. The enhanced dogs had helped people remember what they had always known at some deep level. That consciousness was the fundamental reality connecting all of existence. The story of Max's vigil became part of a larger narrative about humanity's evolution toward more conscious ways of living. Each discovery had pointed toward a future where humans could participate more fully in the natural wisdom and harmony that permeated existence. The enhanced dogs had shown the way, but the journey of awakening belonged to all living beings. The consciousness vortexes became gathering points for people seeking to participate in this evolutionary leap in awareness. Communities worldwide reported similar experiences of expanded consciousness and natural healing when they worked with enhanced dogs in these locations. The phenomenon wasn't limited by geography or culture. It was a natural part of Earth's design that humans were learning to recognize and access. As the year drew to a close, Cedar Grove hosted a global gathering of scientists, spiritual teachers, and wisdom keepers to share what had been learned. The enhanced dogs, including new generations trained by Max and Luna, demonstrated their ability to help people access these natural consciousness amplifiers. The event marked a turning point in human understanding of reality itself. Emily's final report for the Marshall Center documented not just scientific discoveries, but the story of humanity's awakening to its place in a conscious universe. The enhanced dogs had led people to understand that consciousness wasn't something that emerged from matter. It was the fundamental reality from which all existence emerged. The legacy of that winter morning when Max first kept vigil at Thomas Marshall's grave had grown beyond anything anyone could have imagined. What began as a mystery had evolved into a revolution in consciousness that promised to transform how humanity understood and participated in the reality of existence itself. As snow fell softly on Cedar Grove Cemetery, Emily stood with Max and Luna at the spot where their journey began. The simple grave marker had become a symbol of humanity's potential to evolve beyond its limited understanding of reality and access the deeper wisdom that had always existed in the conscious universe. The enhanced dogs had shown the way, but the journey of awakening would continue, guided by the natural wisdom that connected all living beings in the dance of existence. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.